Hey, I'm Steve, also known as TerraMantis, and at E3 this year I was able to interview the creative director, Tom Lee, and the game director, Fumihiko Yasuda from Team Ninja, as well as get a behind-closed-door look at Nioh, the upcoming dark fantasy samurai RPG from Team Ninja that's heavily inspired by games like Dark Souls, Onimusha, and obviously Ninja Gaiden. Now, if you got to play the Alpha of Nioh a few months back, then you were one of the 850,000 plus people that got the chance. Well, Team Ninja received a lot of feedback from the Alpha, and so much has changed with Nioh between now and then. So I want to talk about some of those changes. And in addition to that, I also got an exclusive look at one of the game's boss encounters. So first off, I want to talk about some of the alterations made to the interfacing, HUD, and gameplay, and then later we'll take a more in-depth look at the new stages, weapons, and bosses from the Nioh E3 demo. Alright, to start, I'd like to bring attention to a change made to the quick slot items. In the alpha, you could only equip 3 quick slot items which were bound to up, right, and down on the D-pad, and the left button was to swap through your equipped weapons. And honestly, the up direction was reserved for healing items, so really there was only 2 item slots. It was extremely limiting. Now, if this bothered you like it did so many others, you'll be happy to know that the quick slot interfacing has been completely revamped. With the new modifications, you can have up to 8 quick slot items equipped to the D-pad, 1 item on each direction, and then another button is pressed to swap to a second set of items. Additionally, holding R1 is still used to cycle through various fighting stances, but now while you're holding R1, if you hit left on the D-pad, you go through your equipped weapons, and up will go through your ranged weapons. These interface changes overall are a vastly superior setup than the alpha build. It allows for much more versatility and ease of use to a wider array of consumables, spells, and ninjutsu abilities. Also, this same versatility is obviously applied to your weapon loadout as well, allowing ease of swapping multiple melee and ranged weapons. Now, to that end, let's talk about some of the new weapons introduced at the E3 demo. First off, dual wielding. You can equip 2 swords simultaneously, which will completely alter your moveset. Additionally, new to ranged weapon types are firearms. Now, from Bloodborne, we already know that flintlock pistols and gunpowder weapons can work in an RPG setting like this when implemented properly. Also, I already felt like the bows from Nioh hit like a rocket, and the flintlock rifle just seems that much more suiting to that end. Now, as far as gameplay is concerned, I assume the rifle has less of an arc than the bow at long distances with a higher impact damage, but is slower to reload and obviously louder than a bow. Overall though, we really don't know much more about the rifle, its pros and cons. For the moment, it's just a new type of weapon. And on that note, during the interview and gameplay demo, I asked how many different weapon types there would be in the final build of Nioh. And Yasuda-san, the director of Nioh at Team Ninja, basically said so far we've seen 6 different types of weapons. The axe, hammer, sword, bow, and so on. He then went on to say that in the final build there would be upwards of 24 different types of weapons. I also asked how many different bosses and main story stages there would be in Nioh, and Yasuda said there would be somewhere around 20 main stages and bosses throughout the game. So, let's talk about some of those stages for a moment. In the alpha demo, we only got to see 2 stages, one at night while venturing through a burning village, and the other at night while raining and venturing through a demon-infested temple. Well, I'm happy to report that with the release of the E3 information, we can safely assume there's a wide variety of different stages, ranging from rainy nights and overgrown fields in the day, to trap-filled catacombs and more. Now, from the E3 demo, one stage took place on the side of a sunlit mountain, which was then preceded by venturing into a damp cave system illuminated by a green glow. There were also hot springs that could be bathed in to restore health, which would then place a heal over time effect on William as well. These hot springs, I was told, would be spread throughout and located in various stages. I had some problems with the idea of the hot springs, but I'm going to talk about that later. And unfortunately for the cave stage on Nakatsu Mountain, I was not allowed to capture footage. But I was allowed to capture footage for the stage that picked up right after where the alpha demo left off. Here, just after the Chimera boss, you're taken down an elevator into a maze-like catacomb. In the depths below, statues come to life in a setting almost like a reimagined terracotta army in China. There were pressure plates that triggered traps, and undead hurled bombs from above while possessed statues came to life from below. Overall, the stage had a fantastic dungeon crawling feel, and to me felt like an improvement in level design from what we've seen previously. And the game director Fumihiko Yasuda also went on to say there would be side missions in addition to the main story stages. And apparently, I was told there would be 100 different side missions spread throughout Nioh. Now, from what I understood, at least regarding the one stage I was shown, these side missions act like unique mini-stages, but they're much more simple than a main story level. On the side mission I saw, it was very similar to a horde mode. Essentially, you'd go up to a fog wall and then it would trigger enemies to spawn. After killing 1, then 2, and then 3 enemies at a time in waves, you'd move to a new area and start taking down more and more challenging enemies. This, I was told, is a means to give the game longevity as well as a means to fight for loot. Now, obviously though, the best way to obtain loot is through the game's bosses. I got to see 2 new bosses in action at the E3 demo. One was a succubus-like demon of Japanese folklore, and the other was a samurai. The succubus demon was fast and agile with a varied moveset, and obviously the coolest part was when she'd grab William and her face would split open into tendrils and wrap around his face. I unfortunately did not get to fight the succubus boss. Yasuda fought her. But I did get to fight the samurai, which I was told was an exclusive look at the boss. Now, as for the exclusive samurai boss, I have to say that he surprisingly reminded me of Letho from Witcher 2. Not in the actual fight itself, but in the game design and his placement within the game. So much in the same way the first encounter with Letho in Witcher 2 was placed so early in the game, and Letho was a Witcher himself, his placement was there to teach the player how to be a better Witcher. In order to defeat Letho, you needed to learn how to adopt his style and apply it to your own, in essence becoming a better player and Witcher at the same time. This same tactic of game design can be applied to the samurai boss in Nioh. Being placed at the early stages of the game, you'll learn to be a better samurai by learning from and defeating this boss encounter. For example, the boss will use high stance attacks often to drain your stamina, and then swap to mid stance to attack quickly. He will also detect when your stamina is low and then press the attack, hoping to drain your stamina to then land a critical strike in the process. You also have to learn to use the environment to your advantage by blocking line of sight of the samurai when he goes into a flurry of attacks. So, like I said, if you can learn from and apply these tactics to your own, you'll come out a stronger player by the end. I will say though that I thought the samurai boss was too easy. That said, I was told the version I was playing had the difficulty substantially altered to make it easier for the press demo. But really though, that isn't my overall concern. Yes, like I said from the start, Team Ninja is listening to and implementing a lot of feedback from fans, which is good. But at the same time, I'm afraid they're changing too much and in turn making Nioh too easy. Now, I'm not saying don't make changes. Obviously, adjustments to the camera and how the lock-on mechanics work or quick slot item functionality are welcome alterations, but things like the complete abandonment of weapon degradation or the placement of hot springs have me somewhat worried. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I like the weapon degradation system of the alpha, because I didn't. I'm saying it's about finding a balance. Part of the appeal that draws in the Ninja Gaiden, Team Ninja, and Dark Souls crowd is a certain level of difficulty. Difficulty accompanied by the satisfaction of overcoming and surmounting those trying aspects. Tough but fair. And from Dark Souls 2, we already know that adding too many bonfires and too many supplemental means to heal your character, like healing gems, in the end made the game easier and ultimately diminished that sense of victory and achievement that games like Souls and Ninja Gaiden harness in capturing the audience drawn to these types of games. And in essence, the healing hot springs are a combination of those two things. They're pseudo checkpoints that refill your health like a bonfire, and after you leave, a long-lasting heal over time is placed on you like the healing gems of Dark Souls 2. Also, in the first Dark Souls, weapon degradation was almost not even noticed, and then in Dark Souls 2, it was overwhelming at the start. So for Dark Souls 3, instead of scrapping the idea completely, a balance was found. So in other words, I'm worried that things like overpopulating the maps with these healing hot springs, or completely removing aspects of the game, will ultimately belittle that sense of achievement that games like this capture so brilliantly. Now granted, this was only one example in one stage. I have no idea how things like the hot springs will be implemented throughout the game's entirety, but I will say that it's important to find that perfect balance. No one wants to see Nioh feel difficult for the wrong reasons, but at the same time we also don't want to see it become too easy for the wrong reasons either. Overall though, I believe Nioh is in very good hands, and I don't think Team Ninja will compromise the vision of their game. More likely than not, something like weapon degradation was thrown out because fans didn't like it, and ultimately, the removal of the system didn't compromise the integrity of their vision for Nioh. So what you should take away from this is that I'm worried about certain aspects of Nioh, but it's so hard to tell how well all these systems will work together until you're able to see them implemented throughout the game's entirety. And for the most part, these are just nitpicks in what is shaping up to be a fantastic game so far. Gigantic new bosses, creepy cutscenes, new environments, and tweaks to the game have me excited to see what the future holds for Nioh. Also, there's still several months left in development and plenty time for balancing and fine-tuning. And to that end, I highly suggest that anyone who's able take part in the beta this August. Share your feedback with Team Ninja, they're definitely listening, which is always a fantastic sign of a developer that cares about their fans just as much as they do about our experience within their game. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really goes a long way with the success and searchability videos here on YouTube. It helped me out a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to leave your feedback about Nioh. Team Ninja is definitely listening. Also, if you didn't see my impressions video of the Nioh Alpha, you can check that out here. Or if you'd like to see the E3 gameplay demonstration of Nioh Uncut, you can check that out here as well. There's also links in the description. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.